You get an email with a link, you click it, and a seemingly trustworthy website opens. Then you do something you don't even remember what anymore. After a few minutes, a sinister message appears. All your data is encrypted. Pay 10,000 euros. Ransomware. What happened? Your computer can get infected with just a simple click on an internet link. The short answer for most users is usually no. The idea is that most of the time, it's not the link itself that infected you, but what you did afterwards, after you clicked on it. Accessing the link can trigger the download of a file, but usually nothing happens until you open or run that file, until you click on it. In Windows, for example, the link you clicked on can open another web page for you. And most of the time, nothing happens as long as you don't do anything risky there. For example, entering your password on a site that looks identical to the one you normally use. There are also rare exceptions where simply opening something in a window or previewing a file can be used to exploit system vulnerabilities. But these are no longer the typical scenario in mass attacks, thanks to modern browsers, which are much more secure. That's why vulnerabilities that would allow compromise just from browsing are rare, complex, and expensive. They are mainly used in targeted attacks, espionage against valuable targets, although sometimes they also end up in the hands of organized crime. That's why, in most cases, if you don't take additional risky steps after clicking, you won't get infected just because you opened a link. Thank you for watching. Attackers generally use a simple and much more effective method, tricking the user into running the malware themselves, meaning they take one more step. After clicking, the site you land on may display a message like, "The document can no longer be opened. Download a viewer window," or "The invoice is in the archive," or "See the confirmation here." And obviously a download button appears. If you click the button, the file downloads, usually no problem, but if you run the downloaded file separately, if you click on it. In Windows, for example, you can infect your computer. That's when the computer gets compromised. The browser downloads a file, a zip, a PDF, a trap, an international organization for standardization file, and the user opens it. The system runs the executable or launches a dangerous action, and the ransomware starts encrypting the files. You don't need Hollywood sci-fi scenarios, just social engineering and a bit of carelessness. Sometimes the link doesn't lead to a suspicious site without a legitimate service. Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, where the attacker has already uploaded the malicious file, looks clean, seems legitimate, and can bypass some automatic filters, even though these platforms also have scans and warnings. You download it, run it, and you get infected. Other times, the link doesn't want you to download anything, it just wants to steal your password. It imitates the login page, so when you enter your username and password, attackers use them to access your accounts or the company network. Ransomware may just be the last stage of an already successful attack. There are also situations where you're asked to do something specific on the website opened by the link, like pressing a key combination to verify that you're not a robot. It's dangerous because the site doesn't necessarily try to do something directly to your computer, but instead convinces you to perform a dangerous action yourself. For example, a scam might have you open the run window, use the Win+R command, then Ctrl+V, and then enter. Pages usually can't write to the clipboard without your interaction, so it makes you press a copy button yourself or instructs you to copy some text yourself. But the idea is the same. Without realizing it, you end up running a PowerShell command or a script that can download and run malware on your system. It's good to know that legitimate websites never use such verification methods. A real CAPTCHA is solved with a click or a checkbox, not by key combinations like pressing Win+R, opening the terminal, or pressing Enter to verify that you're not a robot. These are clear signs of fraud. In such situations, the page should be closed immediately. And these are just a few examples of how you can get a virus and end up with ransomware. But what exactly is ransomware? Ransomware encrypts your important files and then demands money to decrypt them. First, the system encrypts the executable files on your computer using the reverse Shamir Adleman method, which you can find more details about in this video. We remember what happens. A public key is chosen, which is the product of two large prime numbers. When a computer sees the key, it can't figure out what the two prime numbers are. On the other hand, the hacker, the one who built the public key as a product of two prime numbers, knows what those numbers are. Based on them, he builds the decryption key that only he has. The program running on the computer encrypts the important files with the public key and then deletes the original ones. Then it sends a message to the user. If the user wants to decrypt them back, only the hacker can do it, because only he has the decryption key and he asks for money for it. The message is usually the same. Ransoms are typically demanded in cryptocurrencies, as they're hard to trace to real identities. Early versions from the 2000s were basic. They just locked the screen and demanded payment by short message service. Then came the variants that encrypted files, such as CryptoLocker, CryptoWall, or WannaCry, which wreaked havoc globally. Hackers first targeted home users, but competition was high. Often the data was encrypted simultaneously by several types of ransomware. Victims had to pay ransoms to all the groups to get their data back. This was prohibitively expensive, so most people preferred to lose their data rather than pay $10,000 for photos and personal information. As they became more sophisticated, the attackers started to target you directly. Companies and institutions where they can demand much larger sums and where it's much harder for companies to start fresh. Today, ransomware is an organized industry. The groups operate like companies. They have development teams, technical support for victims, and even a ransomware affiliate program as a service where other criminals can rent kits and share the profits. Targets now include companies, hospitals, and public institutions, places where downtime is costly, not just home users. Companies make regular backups, but attackers have started stealing data before encrypting it, threatening to publish it online if the ransom isn't paid. Even companies with backups remain vulnerable to blackmail. There are also cases where, besides encryption and data theft, attackers look for information about the people working in information technology security teams to threaten them with violence if they still refuse to pay. As mentioned in my Rivest Shamir Adleman videos, this encryption is very strong. And the authors hide in countries with lax legislation or high corruption from where they can't be easily extradited. In addition, some victims pay, which keeps the business profitable. That's why the most effective way of protection is not how you recommend recovering the files, but how to prevent the attack. Regular backups, up-to-date updates, solid security solutions, and zero trust in interesting attachments. Don't click on suspicious links. Be careful though, many of these links have a character, a letter, or a number slightly changed to look like the real ones, thus exploiting the user's trust. Sometimes it's an extra letter, a 0 instead of an O, or a domain that's almost identical to the original one. For example, instead of a well-known site, you might end up on a copy with a very similar name. And this is where the psychological trap appears. Our brain doesn't read every letter carefully, but rather recognizes the general shape of the word. Attackers are well aware of this. That's why the golden rule is simple. Don't just look at the link text in the email, but check the actual address it leads to. Hover your mouse over the link and look in the bottom corner of the browser. If the domain isn't exactly the official one, don't click. And one more very important thing, even a seemingly credible link can be dangerous if your browser isn't updated, so updates are necessary. In 2017, the NotPetya virus attack affected companies around the world, including the shipping giant Maersk, causing significant financial losses and major operational disruptions. The attacks against public utilities, such as hospitals, were very serious. Other attacks targeted critical infrastructure, such as Colonial Pipeline in the United States, which led to fuel supply disruptions on the east coast of the United States. In 2021, Ireland's healthcare systems were also affected by a ransomware attack, disrupting medical services and access to patient data. It must be said that healthcare systems are among the most vulnerable to cyber attacks. Around 2/3 of the institutions have been affected by a cyber threat at some point, according to recent studies. We've reached the end, and all I can do is wish you peaceful days and a clean computer. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do it right now by clicking this subscribe button. I'm Christian Prasura, Physics Explained. You're cool. Best wishes. Goodbye.